So today we will have a very good friend, Dr. Joe Garcia, take us through the fitting process. Just like we have been fitting Genesis, we will have a practical session for the fitting process of the Edge AI. So without further ado, once again, thank you all very much and welcome. Dr. Joe Garcia, it's my delight and honor to hand it over to you, sir. You're looking amazing, man. You're looking sharp.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you very much. Good morning, buenos días desde la Ciudad de Mexico. Good morning, everybody from Mexico City. It is good to be here again with you, talking about this amazing technology. How are you, Dennis?
I'm great, man. For a moment there, you said there's those very many bonus tears. I was rolling with it until you had to, to recap. I came this close to responding. Good to have you as always, man. Good to have you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much. I hope everything is well in Nairobi, in your beautiful city.
Nairobi is well.
Nairobi is well. I really, really enjoyed your city. I really enjoyed it. Well, because if you look out my window, it looks like Nairobi out here. It's the same city, and so it's very strange to see that. I
Yeah,
am very excited to be talking to everybody about, we talked about last week. Was it last week, Dennis?
yeah, it was last week.
Wow, it feels like it's been a month. It's been very, very busy at Starkey. We've been doing a lot of work, a lot of training, a lot of support, and just hearing a lot of good things about these beautiful hearing aids called Edge AI. Like you said, Dennis, they look just like the Genesis hearing aids, but there's some new things inside that just make it even more amazing. I love Genesis, and I've used Genesis myself. These are mine. These are Joe's, and I've been using hearing aids for about 7 years now because I have a small hearing loss, and it doesn't allow me to hear well in noise. And it kind of surprises me, Dennis, that every single time that we release a new line of hearing aids, the sound just gets better. It gets better. And I don't know, have you had the same experience?
Yeah, actually, most of the time, of course, most of our feedback that we get are from the people who use them, just like yourself. And of course, the experience, of course, comparing also with the number of returns, some patients, of course, if they are disgruntled, they would need to return them. The better the hearing aid, the least the number of returns. So looking at that comparatively, we are getting better with every step that we are forging ahead. So
There,
we are
there are
cutting the edge.
very, very, very good use of words. Yes, and that's a good topic to talk about too. We can make another class about returns. What I have found is that yes, the sound gets better every single time. But as far as maybe repairs go with these hearing aids, they've gone down significantly since Genesis because the protection that it has and the protection that it has against moisture, against sweat is very, very high. And it's something that I really enjoy because, here in Mexico, we have a lot of coastal cities where it's hot and humid and they resist very, very well, and some incidental water also, they resist very well. So, the other thing, as far as returns go, um, there's something really, really important when a patient does not like their hearing aids, and this is any brand really, any single brand. It's mostly because sometimes we didn't understand how to configure the hearing aid or how to solve specific issues like noise. Like I hear a lot of background noise, or I hear some like whooshing sound, or it sounds like it's raining all the time. And maybe a lot of our listeners have heard that. Some other ones are like it sounds sort of distorted or metallic. Loud sounds kind of bother me. I can't hear well in noise. There's a lot of things that go on in the brain that doesn't necessarily have to do with the hearing aid, and some other things that do have to do with the hearing aid that we can fine tune ourselves. And guess what? I'm going to show everybody, some very detailed solutions to some very common everyday problems. Because what I would like is for everybody to just fall in love with these Edge AI hearing aids. They're absolutely wonderful. The sound is amazing. The transmitted sound is even better than Genesis, and I didn't think that was possible. But these from a cell phone or from an accessory, the sound is just so amazing. It's so much better. I'm an audiophile. I love audio. That's why I became an audiologist, and I like to help people hear as best as possible. But as far as my experience goes, I like to hear good sound. Like if you go to my house, I have the best speakers. I need to have that. Otherwise, for me, the experience is like sort of gray. And what I have found with the Edge AIs, as far as transmitted sound, wow, it's so much better. It's so good. I don't know if have you tried the transmission sound, the transmitted sound from a cell phone?
Yeah, I
Jen?
did. I have. And of course, the experience is just like you say, crisp, clear, the clarity. Of course, Edge did a great job. And I mean, Genesis did a great job, and Edge has just picked it up from right there. Obviously, and this is an experience that I would be delighted to pass on to our clients to be able to give to their clients as well. That manner of awesomeness should be felt by everybody.
And I'm going to tell you a quick secret. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
also an engineer. I studied engineering when I was younger, and then I went into audiology and got my doctorate in audiology. And I wanna make a comparison of how we've gotten so much better. So with hearing aids before Edge, the Bluetooth protocol, and this is across all brands too. It's sort of like, this box here, and inside the box, there's sound and there's other data. And so before Edge, we would, transmit the sound through packages like this one, so millions of packages per second, and the hearing aid would receive it, and it would open the box, and inside they would find sound. But the sound would only be in one corner. Just a little corner right here would be sound, and the rest would be other data that really isn't important. It's like, just data. And so we would be able to hear well. You can hear sound. But now
Mm.
with Edge, with the new Bluetooth protocol, with Auracast, now you get the box full of sound. All of it is full of sound. There's no
Yeah.
space in here. Everything is full of sound. And when you have more data sound, more information of sound, you get lows and mids and highs, and it's just a fuller, much more beautiful sound, and it's a really great experience. So, Edge AI really, really takes us to the edge, as you say. It has all the beautiful benefits of Genesis, but the sound is even better in noise. The sound being transmitted is better. There are some nuances that I really, really love with Edge, and I believe they're the best hearing aids we have up to date. So I invite everybody to try them out. If you love Genesis, this is going to be even better. And it's future proof. So what does that mean? Because it has Auracast, there's newer televisions. There's some Samsung, I think there's some newer Samsung televisions, some of the newer Samsung cell phones, and then some other sound devices around us that are starting to have this new Bluetooth protocol. So what that means is that with these newer devices that have Auracast on board, you put the hearing aid on and you can connect to your television direct. You don't need an accessory. Today, we have an accessory for the Edge because most people don't have televisions with Auracast on board. So we have an accessory that you
Oh,
can,
yeah.
and it sounds really great. But I would say in about 2 to 3 years, and no more than five, the whole market is going to be saturated with these newer audio devices that have Auracast. So, your computer, and talking about computers, if you have a Windows 11 computer, you can connect your hearing aids to that Windows computer as well directly without
Okay.
having
Yeah.
an accessory. So I think they're really cool devices, and I know they're gonna be. I know everybody's gonna love them. Don't you think, Dennis?
Actually, yeah, like I said last time, the fact that we have these hearing aids that can be able to connect to our PCs, the Windows 11 computers, it's really, really, really nice. And not just that, they will be compatible with most Bluetooth devices. because of our Bluetooth low energy connectivity within our hearing aids. That's really quite something. It is a game changer. There is one gentleman, one Dr. Momba. He once challenged me. He was asking me about that. There was at that time we were talking about Genesis, and then he asked me about, hey man, how about in the near future having hearing aids that can be able to just stream conversations and calls, especially for the sake of these Zoom meetings and all meetings within the laptops. And of course, here we are. It's a marvel, man. I love it for us.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and so the future is here. The future just is starting, and I'm very excited. So this morning, for the next 40 minutes, I'm going to talk about the software because, again, none of these things work without, some good programming, and programming is very essential. These are like a beautiful musical instrument, and an instrument can only be played by a good musician, right? So you can be a bad musician, and so that instrument's going to sound bad. You can be a good musician, it's going to sound good, better, or you could be a master at that instrument, and it's going to sound beautiful.
Yeah.
After about almost 30 years of being an audiologist, I can say I'm a master in making these instruments sound so beautiful. And I'm going to share a few tips today as to how to do that. So let me go ahead and open the software, and we can get started. So let me just open up the software here, and I'll make sure that started here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. After the pandemic and all the things that we went through, you would think that this is just the easiest thing to do. Times still
Yeah,
forget
wait, man.
we still forget to unmute our microphones, and we still forget,
Every so often,
you know.
man.
All right,
Yeah.
so I am opening this up. All right, cool. So this is our first screen that we'll see on Profit. And what we'll see when the hearing aids are off, you won't see anything on the screen as far as hearing aids. But I just want to run through just some very simple things that I love about the Profit software. So, Inspire is a great software as well. Of course, things you have to update them and they have to be even better than before. So I love the Inspire software. I loved it for a long time. I started at Starkey in 2006, which is about 19 years ago and 6 months. So 19 years and 6 months at Starkey that I've been doing this. And back then, it was the Destiny hearing aids. Destiny, that was our first line of hearing aids with that newer software, and they were great hearing aids. They were little, workhorses. They did a great job. Today we have our Profit software with these great hearing aids, Genesis and now Edge AI. And if everybody has fit Genesis, well, there's nothing different here as far as
Yeah.
that. I just want to point out a few things that are important. So we have our patient name. We have our audiogram. I love having access. I know people are like, oh, the audiogram. I love having access to the audiogram because
Mm.
I love to take a look and see what I need to do with the sound. What I need to do with the higher frequencies. In this case, look at this hearing loss. This isn't my hearing loss. I just want to point that out. That's not me, because it's not that bad. Like this is a scary hearing loss because this type of hearing loss means that we need to do some specific work in order to make it sound good for our patient. So there's a lot of backward that needs to be done. For example, here, a lot of times you'll be like, well, will I put a huge vent or will I use a lot of power? What am I going to do with this hearing loss? And I'll talk about this a little later, but just to keep us thinking, we need to look at the audiogram every time that we are working with our patient. I'm using the Neuralink Wireless 2. The Neuralink Wireless 2 is the preferred programmer that we're going to use because it allows for something very nice that I love with Genesis and also here in Edge AI, that you don't need to have the patient disconnect their phone from Bluetooth in order to program these once that you've done your first fit. So,
Mhm.
newer hearing aids, you connect them to the hearing aid, they make a relationship, and then afterwards, when you pair the hearing aids to the phone, You don't need to turn off the Bluetooth. You just connect it to the to Profit, but you need this Neuralink to wireless programmer. All right, so I'm going to take the hearing aids off their base here, off their charger, and these are my own hearing aids. They're beautiful. They're this black color, very 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 elegant, and I'm bald, and as you can tell,
No, we can't tell that. We can't.
I'm I'm balding a little bit, a little bit.
Just a little. Just, just.
So uh, when I have these on, people can't tell that I have them on. Maybe it's because I also have big ears, but people can't tell that I have it.
Uh,
So when I take them off the base or when I turn on the hearing aids, I have 3 minutes to connect them. With Genesis, not Genesis, but the Evolve hearing aids, and before that, it was 20 seconds. Now with Genesis and Edge, you get 3 full minutes to connect them to the software. And what I'm going to do here, you can see that they're brand new hearing aids. I want to select both of them, and then I'm going to connect them. This is our connect button here. In the past, Dennis, we used to have it. Inspire has the start button right down here at the bottom,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
newer customers could not find it. They're like, "How do I connect the hearing aids?" I'm like, "There's a
Oh.
huge blue button on the bottom that
At
says
the bottom
start,"
there.
and
Uh,
they're like, "Oh, it's so obvious that it's not obvious." So now we've got this little words right there that says "connect" right next to the hearing aids, and it seems to be much better because it's right next door. The other thing I
yeah.
want to show you as well, if you have a lot of hearing aids connected to the screen, for example, in a clinic where people are just, fitting, you can press the button on the back of the hearing aid, and it'll blink orange. It'll blink. So I'll do that, and I'll do the other one, and you can see, I can tell that these are my hearing aids. So there's no need
Oh.
to do any of that. If I disconnect the receiver, it'll say the receiver is not connected. When I connect it, it knows that it's a left hearing aid. So there's no need to choose left or right. There's no need to read serial numbers anymore. At my almost 50 years of age, there's really difficult to read those serial numbers. So no need to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the hearing aids, and now they're communicating with my Neuralink 2 wireless programmer. And what it's doing, because these are newer hearing aids, is that they're communicating a lot of information. They're getting to know each other. It's a relationship. They're like, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, it's nice to meet you." Come on in. And now we've created this relationship so that afterwards you don't need to turn off Bluetooth. Here, this is the only thing that you do need to do some input. So you need to let it know if it's an earbud or if it's a RIC ear mold. So what are you using as far as the connection, or the what are you putting inside the ear? Are you putting an earbud, or are you using a RIC ear mold? So here I'm going to use an earbud because I don't have a mold with me, and then you need to tell it if it's an open bud, if it's a sleeve, which is a very, very thin piece of plastic that goes over the receiver. If it's occluded, means there's no vents on the earbud, or if it's a power earbud. Power earbuds means that it's got two layers, sort to keep that sound pressure inside the ear. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply the best fit. The fitting formula that we're using, and the one that I always use, is ESTAT 2.0. So I'll go ahead and apply the best fit, and it'll go ahead and do that. It'll match targets for this hearing loss. I've got two M receivers on these hearing aids. Remember that M stands for medium or 50 gain, right? So LMPUP, low, medium power, ultra power, 40, 50, 60, and then 70 gain, the UP. Remember, the UP needs to be encased, needs to be encased in a hard shell. All right, so here we go. We've got a lot of things going on here, and it may seem a little bit cumbersome at the beginning when you see all these things. This is normal. But what I want you to see, and I'll actually hide this for a second, this is the screen that you're going to see in the beginning. You've got your your preparation right up here. just like you do with Genesis. You've got preparation, fitting, and follow-up. Preparation is always going to be the first category that is going to be presented to you. And then right next to it is our subcategories. So you've got experience, programs, user controls, and accessories. So the idea is that you go through it one by one, right? I am a rebel. I am a rebel, Dennis. I don't follow the rules. I make my own rules. So what I do is, there's some things that I really don't use very much. For example, experience level. Experience level. It sounds like a good idea, and it might be a good idea for most for some people, but the experience level really is a volume control. If I, go from experience to familiar, you can see that the basically the gain just comes down, right? And
Mhm.
that is just gain. This is really just a volume control. I don't like volume controls. I am not a proponent of volume controls. And I'm talking about directly here on the software. I'm not talking about our patients, turning the hearing aid up and down.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
I don't give them that option either. I don't. Dr. Joe doesn't, but I understand that some people might need it. But I'm going to explain why. The reason why I don't use experience level is because, as you can see, the three lines are shifting, up and down. And really, if a patient is uncomfortable with their hearing aids, we need to understand why it's uncomfortable. Is it the MPO? Is it the 80 gain response? Is it cochlear dead regions? What is it? What's going on? What is the problem? Why is this happening? Right? So I really don't use experience control. It's right there if you want to use it. But I'm going to show you the way that I actually work. Then you've got programs, you've got user controls and accessories. You can go ahead and modify all that if you need to. You've got your programs, you've got 1 through 4. One of the things you won't see here is Stream Boost, that you'll find
Windows,
that
yeah.
Evolve and Livio. Stream Boost is not here. There's another way, and it's also different from Genesis. There's another way to modify uh, sound that's coming from from a radio antenna. So for example, from your cell phone or from an accessory, right here where you have your blue
Audio
menu,
streaming.
yeah, you've got audio streaming. So right over here, if you can see that, you got audio streaming. So when I click there, what I am looking at here now is audio streaming. This is just solely for sound that's coming from a streaming source. So again, cell phones and whatnot, all of that. So you can make modifications here directly. This won't modify the sound that is in the environment. It'll modify the sound that's coming from a source, from a audio source. So we can do that. You can do quick fit. You can do low gain, a high frequency, and then your MPO. You can also, do things directly here to turn the lows, mids, and louder, up and down. And then you can also do the fine tuning. So this is a full array of controls that you can do a lot. I have a patient in Jamaica, Jamaica in the Caribbean here, and this is really tough. And if they're musicians and engineers, it's even harder because they're very specific. I'm a musician and I'm also an engineer, so I would be your worst nightmare as far as as far as the patient goes. And so the patient would take, drumsticks, and he would take like instruments. And he's like, yes, yes, give me more in the highs. Give me he's like a famous musician, and I'm over here like the audio engineer, and he's doing like a sound check. That is
Yeah.
exactly what I was doing, and he was so happy because he's like, wow, this sounds really good. I've never heard, and he's got a really complicated hearing loss, and he's like, this is what I needed. Very happy. And so, you can do all of your modifications here as well. But just coming back to Quick Fit here, again, you've got preparation, you've got all these things, you've got your programs, then you've got user controls, and then user controls right over here. In your user controls, again, not very different from Genesis. Uh, they're basically the same thing. You've got volume programs, tinnitus level, all of the things that you see on here, you can go ahead and add those things, right? One of the things that maybe most people don't maybe have not had a chance to look at is this sleep mode. Sleep mode in Evolve and before, I believe it was called on or off, right? So it would say turn off the hearing aids. And really, it was not turning the hearing aids off. It would put them in sleep mode or standby mode. Standby mode or sleep mode is basically the hearing aids turn their voltage way, way down, right? And it's just a little bit of a awake in order to understand when it needs to wake up again. So there is, if you turn, if you put them in sleep mode or in previous hearing aids, if you turn them off within quotes, and you would put them on the table or something, they would still be using energy. So sometimes people would tell me, I left them on the table, and after about 2 days, I'm like, why did you leave them on the table for 2 days? Uh, they would be dead, and but they were off. Like, no, it's not actually off. They're still using a little bit of energy. So the better thing to do is, when you can, put them in their charging case. So I would do that. You've got so many things here, and I'm not going to go through all of them because I just want to show you the nuances of our software. But you've got power on delays. You've got manage phone calls. You can during a phone call, you can answer the phone call or hang up or whatever you want to do directly from the hearing aids. You've got your volume control range, tinnitus, and then you've got some other things on here that are very particular to these hearing aids. You've got preparation. I'm sorry, you've got your accessories right over here. One of the things that you will see different is that the accessories for Edge are not the same accessories for Genesis. Because we're using Bluetooth low energy, the newer protocol, they're not compatible with the previous accessories. So these are very specialized accessories that give very robust sound, just very, very different sound, and it sounds way better. So you do have a table mic, and it's called the Edge table mic. You've got your TV streamer that's only for Edge, and then you've got a remote control as well. And then I believe very soon we're going to have a remote microphone as well. So you've got all of these things that are working with Edge. These use the newer protocol, and it sounds absolutely amazing. So one of the things that you can do here as well, and one of the things that I'm going to suggest to everybody who fits hearing aids, if you are pairing with an accessory, or in the future when your patient has a television that's compatible with Auracast, you should um, think about these things that I'm going to show you. So you got right here hearing aid mic while streaming. When you have your hearing aid mic on while streaming, this means that you're going to hear everything that's around you coming through the hearing aids, and you're going to hear the sound that's coming from, in this example, from a television. And that's not good because you're mixing all of this sound together and it's all coming into the hearing aid along with the streaming. It's just a big mess, becomes very muddy. So what I suggest is mic off. Mic off turns the mics off on the hearing aid, and you'll just hear the streaming sound, and it sounds way, way better. This is the same thing with like microphones or any other accessory, including cell phones. So cell phones during a phone call, you don't want those mics on because this is going to sound very noisy. And just an added thing, there are the newer Android devices, from compatible Android devices, and you can go on starkeypro.com to look at our compatibility lists. Um, they do have two-way streaming as well. So Android now has two-way streaming just as the iPhone or Apple has, and it's you've got more choices as well. So let me just go on here. You've got fitting, in the fitting category here. You're going to see fitting when the patient goes home and comes back. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused here. Fitting is what you're going to go to next after preparation. So you do your feedback counselor. You can go to do your quick fit screen. You can go to your sound manager as well. Here in sound manager, just to make sure that everybody understands, we do have consonant brightness, and what this is a added gain in the higher frequencies when you have an SH sound, a fricative sound that is going to give us a little bit more gain so that the patient can have better audibility of those sounds. So this is really one that I really enjoy because it gives me clarity, especially when I'm in a noisy situation, you know. And then you've got speech and noise, quiet, all of the ones that you're very used to. Um, this other one here that most people don't talk about, motion-based optimization, is important to understand what it does. There's two things that it does. So, motion-based optimization is when your patient is, for example, he's sitting down and he's working and he's doing something, you know, the hearing aid can go into directional mode if necessary. And, you know, so they can have better speech understanding. But in the moment that they get up and they start walking, the sensors in the hearing aid, the accelerometer, understand that there's motion coming going. And so what the hearing aid does is that when a patient is walking, it goes from directional mode or adaptive mode into omni mode. So they can hear everything that's around. Why? Because it's important that when you're walking, the intent is I'm going from here to there. I want to hear everything that's around me, right? So that's important. And then the other thing that it does is that sometimes when a patient has a lot of movement in their ear canal, you know, when with jaw movements, the ear canal opens up. There can be some feedback, right? Especially with higher powered devices, and that can be an issue as well. So the hearing aid also detects when there's a lot of movement in the jaw. The hearing aid, what will it will do? It will bring your feedback canceller to strong, right? It'll bring it up to strong. And that will prevent, for example, I've had patients complain that when I'm eating, you know, and I'm chewing food, I can hear my hearing aids whistling. So this will help with that issue. I love to eat, Dennis. I don't know if you like to eat. I think you do.
I sure do it. I do. I
I saw
do.
I saw a picture yesterday of you giving a class there. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? I won't
Oh
go into
man.
details. All right. All right. So
Yeah.
you got your user controls as well. We've already talked about that. And then you've got your indicators. Indicators are important also because the indicators give us information as to, you know, what the hearing aid is doing, if I've engaged something or not. So this is our indicators. There's nothing really new here that we need to talk
Yeah.
about. And then the last one you'll see follow up. Follow up is what you'll see after the patient has gone, comes back, and then the hearing aid will go into follow up mode. So that is something that the program will do automatically, and so we don't have to worry too much about that. So we have our data log. You've got fine tuning. You've got sound manager as well. Your user controls in case you need to do something different. And then you'll see your indicators as well in case you need to activate or turn something off. I love the data log. Do you use the data log a lot, Dennis? I use it all
Yeah,
the time.
especially for counseling, man. After you fitted the patient and you let them go, when they're coming up for their follow-ups, you need to know if they're actually using them. So it's good to be informed, to guide them from a point of information, because this would let you know if they're actually using their hearing aids. This has actually helped me try to settle a few scores with some clients who are like, these things are just expensive and they're not helping me. And you go to the data log and you find quiet is like 80, 90%. They're like, yeah,
Yeah,
they're not helping you because you're not wearing them.
right,
Yeah,
right,
so
exactly.
yeah, it informs us to be able to guide the clients way better. Yeah, so yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And, you know, it's important that the patient uses the hearing aids all day long. If there is an issue, I would ask them, you know, why don't you wear them all day long? Oh, because, you know, it sounds noisy or, you know, it's too loud or, you know, sharp sounds really bother me. Then there's something that we can do about it, which I'll talk about in the next 20 minutes. So I also use the dialogue for other things. For example, average time streaming. Average time streaming, if I see really high numbers and the patient complains, you know, my hearing aids are not lasting as long as I'd like, which even with really high streaming, the hearing aids should last all day long because, you know, for example, these Embrics, the battery will last about 41 hours.
Mhm.
And so, you know, if I see somebody that's streaming, I don't know, 14 hours a day. I'm like, man, you need to get a life, man. You need to do something else other than watch TikTok all day long. Because, you know,
Yeah.
mother-in-law, I tell her these
Uh,
things. You gotta stop, TikTok,
uh,
mom, because you're wasting the battery. What are you doing? Hungry.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
love my mother-in-law. She's a lot of fun. We always joke around like that. We should do TikToks. My mother-in-law and I should do TikToks together. We would
Yeah.
we would have a lot of views. So you've got average time streaming, which helps me out with that. Program usage, programs we really should get away from using like crowd and restaurants and all these programs that are really ancient technology. We shouldn't be using those because we have a very, very powerful tool in these Edge AI and Genesis hearing aids, which is Edge Mode. Edge Mode is your all-in-one program. If there is an issue, I'll solve it. That sounds like a Ice Ice Baby song. Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah.
If you have a problem, I'll solve it. Anyways, if there's an issue with a space, tap edge mode or activate on the phone because what the hearing aid will do is it'll analyze the environment and then switch on whatever needs to be switched on in order to hear better in that environment. And so I don't believe in programs anymore, other than maybe like the music program or a telephone program. If somebody has a one of these old phones in their homes, that most people just forgot that they exist. The phone that's connected to the wall where you're like, hello, that's what I would use it for. And then you've got, and so right down here, also, this one is one that I think a lot of people also don't use a lot, input level distribution. This is the amount of sound or the amount of sound pressure coming into the microphones. And so, less than 40 dB is really, really soft, almost a whisper. You've got 50, you've got 60 to 69, 70 to 79. This is where your conversations are happening right over here. And then you've got 80 to over 90 dB. Right over here is noise. So you're at a club, you're like, you're just having a good time. And if you see those numbers above 80, which are like really high, I would ask the patient,
Mm.
what are you doing? Well, where are you? Like, what are you doing all day long? And they're like, oh, I'm at the club all day long. No, I don't know. Maybe they work in a very loud environment. Maybe they work at a factory, or maybe they work somewhere where there's just noise all the time. And so we would need to address that, right? Okay, so it looks like most of the day you're in a noisy situation. We should go ahead and talk about like a microphone or something that's going to give you an added benefit. So that is something that I use input level distribution. I want to see what the numbers look like there. And if I see something that's really strange, then we're going to address it. So again, just a lot of information that you can get here that's going to help you fit the hearing aids better. All right, I'm going to put my blue menu here. I'm just going to put it here. I'm going to pin it to the screen because this is the way I like to work. I like to see this menu over here because Inspire got me trained that way. So I like to see it this way. All right, so let's talk about this hearing loss and how I would go ahead and fit this. So one of the first things that I would do, Dennis, is we can see that frequency lowering is on because you've got this yellow and green area over here, which lets me know that frequency lowering is on. Frequency lowering is a tool that is very similar to what other competitors do, such as frequency compression and
Transposition.
frequency
Transposition.
transposition, right? None of those sound good in the sense of sound quality. All of them, doesn't matter which method it is, provide distortion because distortion is the product. When you take a sound from a higher frequency and bring it down to a lower frequency where there's already information there, you're going to create distortion. Just as you would, for example, if you had different colors, you had of yellow, red, blue, and
Mm,
orange. And if you take that orange and put it
Yeah.
over the blue, for example, it's going to create distortion. It's the same thing here. So what I do is I turn this off. I don't really use frequency lowering. I have tried in vain to make it work, and I have not been able to have the patient accept it, you know. And when I do use it, I'll use it in a second personal program. So I'll set the second program here as personal. It's going to have the same response as the first one as far as hearing goes, but as far as added features, I might turn it on here and have the patient try it. A lot of times I'm like, I tried it, I don't like it. We'll just come back to the first one. So you can do a pilot program and try and do that. So I turned off low frequency lowering. The other thing that I do with my patient is I'll ask them, I'll say, Dennis, we're going to work with the sound. This is the first fit. We're going to work with the sound. I want you to let me know what the volume is like. I don't ask them. So how are you hearing? That is a very ambiguous question. How are you hearing? I don't know. I'm hearing okay, I guess. That doesn't give me information. I'm hearing okay, I guess. All right, go home, take care, and they'll come back and we'll have a lot of issues, right? The question is going to be very, very driven. It's going to be very driven, so I can get some information back. So, Dennis, how is the volume? And you might say, oh, the volume. So specifically the volume. Yes, specifically the volume. Well, I feel that it's a little loud. Okay, Dennis, it's a little loud. My next question, because the first thing that most people do, it's a little loud. I'm going to go here to the gain control. I'm going to turn it down. Better? No, that's not what we should do. Forget this gain control. The gain control is not for you to use anymore. Cut that out of if you're used to using the gain control, cut that out of your method. That's not something that you should use. So my second question would be, okay, Dennis, what is too loud? What do you feel is too loud? Is it my voice? Is it something that's around you? And you might say, your voice is okay, but I can hear a lot of noise, a lot of shh, the sound that most patients complain about. And this happens because when we build a hearing aid, we build it for a specific cavity, a specific volume, which is two cubic centimeters. Well, if your patient has smaller or larger ear canals, it's going to change the sound. So uh, sound is going to vary based on each patient's ear canal volume. So here, I would say, okay, so you hear a lot of background noise, a lot of shh. All right, we can address that. And the way you address it is you're going to select your soft. Soft. Why soft? Because when soft, what happens is the hearing aids will analyze everything that's around you and it'll categorize everything into three different sections: soft, moderate, and loud. And so soft, everything that goes into the soft category, the hearing aid will look at what I asked it to do, and it'll bring the gain up for that soft sound up to where I programmed. So if the patient says, oh, there's too much background noise, I can turn that down simply selecting soft and then turning soft down, right? So let's say your softs are up here. If your soft is up here, your patient's going to hear a lot of shh. I'm going to turn it down and I'm going to ask the patient, is that better? And he's like, oh yeah, that's much, much more quieter. That's so much better. And then we can have a better experience. Now I don't hear so much noise in the background. I don't want to make background noise disappear because it's there and I need the patient to have audibility of that. But I also don't want it to be exaggerated. So really important for us to make those modifications based on patients' feedback. The next thing that I'm going to ask them to do is to evaluate my voice. How is my voice? Is my voice too loud? Is it too soft? What do you think? What do you feel? And it's like, well, your voice is a little bit too loud, right? So voice issues are going to be handled by this green line right here. So I'm going to click on that and I can turn my voice down or up. Now, let's be very realistic here. A lot of patients will have family members who will go over to the corner way over there and be like, right? And that's just not realistic, right? What we need to have them is about a meter in front of us and just have this not shouting and not too soft. We just want to have a regular conversation with them. That is what realistic conversation is. So it's not right to go all the way back there and be like,
Mhm.
they're not gonna hear you, you know. You would have to turn soft sounds way up in order for them to hear
Oh
that,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
again, voice is right there. And then this one right here is for 80 dB sound. So here you can use Verify Comfort, which we've talked about in the past. I won't go through it right now, but basically it's a double click on each of these little dots right here and ask them if it's too loud. We can make modifications directly here, right? Forget about this blue line right down here. Don't worry about it. So we can do that. Or the other thing that you can do, and what I have found is that this little peak right here, you see this peak right over here. This peak right here is usually the one that causes us issues. So I'm going to actually select it here. So here to here. Ah, come on, Joe. Here to here. Okay. So then I can turn down this peak just a bit, and that'll be more than enough to make it more comfortable. So you can do that. And then now you've got your levels ready. So if, for example, it says, I hear too much background noise and I do this with the gain control, what happens, Dennis? You're turning down voice. You're turning down the voice. You know, you're making the hearing aid more comfortable. Yes, you are. But you're also making it less audible for
Yeah.
for for, for speech.
A normal
We don't want to do that.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we are providing good levels at soft, moderate, and loud, and then be done with that. The next thing I do is that I'll take maybe some keys or some chips or whatever. I'm on a diet right now, so I don't have bags of chips around me right now. But maybe about a month ago, I would have some bag of chips.
Yeah.
And I would make that sound because it goes up to the MPO. And then if it's too loud for them, then I can go here, select, our each individual one. I don't like to use the mouse. I like to use the arrows on the
Arrows.
keyboard, right? I like
Yeah.
to use the arrows on the keyboard. So I would turn, these higher frequencies down and then try again. And then when it's comfortable, then the patient, once it's comfortable, then, we're done with that. So we've done soft, moderate, loud sounds, and then we've very, very loud sounds. We've also modified those as well. And then the last thing, just to finish up here, because man, we're almost out of time. Can you believe that? Is these higher frequencies here. So when we have a hearing loss, as the one we can see here, there's going to be a lot of cochlear dead regions, right? Cochlear dead regions is something that we always need to um, contemplate, which usually happen around 60 dB or more in the higher frequencies, 4,000 hertz and above. And we can see here that we've got an audiogram left and right where we have a possibility of cochlear dead regions. It doesn't mean that they're going to exist. It means that the probabilities are just way higher that they might exist. And how do you know they exist? The patient's going to tell you, hey, doc, I can hear a cochlear dead region. No, they're not going to say that. They're going to say, they're going to say something like, it sounds metallic. It sounds
Yeah.
I can hear like clicking sounds, that sort of thing. And the first thing that you should do is put on your
Similar
listening
device.
and listen to the hearing aid. Pop, 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 pop. Ah, e, o, u, sh. No, it sounds pretty good. You put it back in their ear. No, I can hear that distortion sound. I can hear clicking. That is a very huge signal sign that cochlear dead regions might exist. So, what I'll do here then is that I'll go to fine tuning and I will expand all of my what do you call it? My frequency.
Frequencies.
I'll start off with, for example, here on this audiogram, it looks like the left one is going to be worse. So I'll start off with the left one. I'm going to mute the right. I'll start off with the left, and then what I'll do here is I'm going to select the higher frequencies. Oh, I didn't choose left. Left. Okay, and then I'm going to choose this. I'm going to turn the volume all the way down on this highest frequency, and then I'm going to ask them, hey, how does that sound? And then if it sounds, it's going to sound, still going to hear that metallic sound. I want to go to the next one, and so on. And I'll do this one by one until the quality of the sound is much better to them. To us, it sounds fine, but to them, because they have these cochlear dead regions, they perceive it as metallic, etc. And then I'll go to the right side and I'll do the same thing if the issue is there as well. So the left side, I'm going to mute, and then I'll do the same thing on the right. And really, that's what Dr. Joe does, and I have a lot of difficult cases. I don't want to compare myself to Bill Austin because there is no comparison, but he is my mentor. And here in Mexico, I am the one that sees the very hardest patients, the ones that really, really struggle with their hearing aids. And the things that I do are very simple, Dennis. They're so simple. Just everything that I've showed everybody here and that's connected, those things that I do are people, who come in who have had difficulties with their hearing aids for 6 months or a year. They come in to see me, and in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, we'll have them straightened out, right? Whether it's a vent
Yeah.
issue, a power issue, a sound issue, a compression issue, cochlear dead region issue, we'll have them fixed up in about 15 minutes. And it's not because I'm a genius, it's because I've failed so many times that I've learned to create the sound the correct way. It's like playing that piano or the violin or whatever instrument. You go, it sounds horrible, and you sound as time goes on and you practice, it gets better and better and better. And so what I shared with you today is basically the very very simple things that you can do in your office to make that hearing aid sound so beautiful. And these are edge devices, man. These are so amazing. I really, really love them. And I'm not just saying that because I work at Starkey. I'm saying that because as an audiologist, wow. And as a hearing aid user, man, these are absolutely just wonderful. So I invite all of my friends from Africa to try it out. I am very sure that your patients are going to love it. And if you have an issue with the fitting, you've got geniuses working at Starkey Africa. You've got Dennis leading the way. And then you've also got Dr. Joe way over here. I'm usually sleeping when you guys are awake, but I'm more than happy to help. So,
Yeah.
so that's it, Dennis. I think we finished right on time.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good. Thanks, man. Thank you so much, Doc. It's always great watching you do what you do. You do it so passionately, man, and you make it
I
so simple.
I love
Yeah,
this.
yeah. You
This
normally
is
make it so simple, man. I love it for you. So, I think we are out of time, but just there's a question here by Niham. She's asking how AI is able to balance between noise suppression in difficult listening environments, and of course, just exemplifying that speech and making it clear, even in such situations. She's given an example of a cafe with a background music. And I think the additional sort of noise suppression features that have been brought with our Edge Mode Plus within our Edge AI hearing aids work better with this. I think compared to Genesis, which was had a suppression of up to 180 dB, they have added an extra 10 dB in the Edge AI class of hearing aids. So there's a noise suppression feature that can do the suppression of up to 118 decibels. So that's it. I think that should be able to answer you until unless there is anything else that you'd like to add, Dr. Joe.
Yeah, just remember, we have the best deep neural network of any of the competitors, and they could preach whatever they want. I know from a as an engineer, we have a set up the deep neural network engine inside our hearing aids to be very very efficient. And so when sound comes into the hearing aid and goes through that engine, man, it just separates that out, Nahum, and it just clears out the noise as much as possible. It doesn't make it disappear, no, but it keeps the sound in there because we've trained it through artificial intelligence to understand what noise is and what speech is. And so when it sees speech, it says, "I'm gonna keep this, but I'm gonna turn down this noise that's around it," right? So that it's sort of like peeling a banana, right? You take away the stuff that you don't
Oh,
need,
yeah.
and you keep that the sound,
The banana.
and keep the banana. Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, man. Time is out of our hands. I would have loved to get to go through just at least I'll bring it to attention of the people who have joined us today. Our additional functions that have been introduced in our multiplex tinnitus pro. With the AJI, we have introduced more stimuli. We have their red sound and pink sound and all that. So when they get their time, they could be able to get it. Man, thank you so much, Dr. Joe. I think